taken under as serious consideration as something like this that has been discussed at the level of the competition committee, etc. What would be the impact, Mel?
I think what they really want to do here, Mike, is eliminate individual workouts. They want to force players to go to the combine meeting in early February, and by having a late February, early March draft, they would say, hey, basically, unless you're hurt and our medical people say you're injured and we have to retest you, say, right before the draft, you have to work out, or we're not going to touch you. They spend a lot of money flying around the country for these individual workouts, and it's gotten to the point where it's really ridiculous. So I think right now, that's the reason that they're even considering this. Let's remind people that when Leland McElroy worked out at the Combine, there was a standing ovation from the people there, and that is relatively rare. It wasn't because of Leland's aptitude at the different tests, just because they actually saw in the flesh somebody give you a good effort at a workout. One of the guys who was, and look what happened to Leland, and this wasn't related to his Combine workout. We saw the tape of his workout as well, but it was a totally different matter why he slid into round 2 of the draft. What impact would it have from a player standpoint?
I think from a player standpoint, it would allow players to, right at the end of the season when they start to get a little nicked, to protect themselves and not play, you know, I don't want to protect myself. I got the draft coming up here earlier, and like Mel said, they have to go to the combine and work out. I think they will also take away from the competition we have in bowl games, even though some of them have been blowouts. I think it'll take away from the competition because you have everybody out there trying to protect their draft position.
I think one other point that's very important. I think what NFL teams will really push for is that you keep the draft where it is in April, late April, but you move the combine workout back. And I think what the concern is that there's a lot of players that are really injured. They're banged up. They just got done playing a long season. They went to all-star games that are lasting until January 20th, and they are not ready to put forth their best effort at the combine meeting. I think if they move it back to, say, early March, all of a sudden now you're going to get the players at their best, and you're going to get an accurate reading, more so than a player who's 80% and he's being forced to work out. So I think that's the key, is not the draft necessarily moving, but the time of the combine workout moving back a little bit.
I agree, and not to mention the school that some of these guys do want to graduate. So I mean, I think it'll take away from, you know, the guys that are close to graduating or going to graduate in May. I think it'll hamper them too.
Just going to make that point. If you get a multi-million-dollar contract in February, what is the incentive to go back for those last 3 months of school? Your incentive is going to be, hey, let me start earning my millions of dollars by working out with my NFL team and learning the offense or defense. Let's bring in Mark Malone on this conversation. Mark, your thoughts?
Well, Mike, those are interesting points, but I mean, these guys don't mind taking off school to go to bowl games and doing other things. So, I mean, we got to keep this thing in perspective. I know for a fact that the Pittsburgh Steelers, Dan Rooney, one of the more respected owners in the National Football League, has been one of the owners that has really pushed for this thing to happen. They are spending far too much money running around testing guys individually, and I don't think it's because they're nicked up or they're tired. I mean, a lot of these guys that don't work out are guys that either have problems or they're really high-rated draft picks, and they don't want to work out for anybody. They don't want to do anything to jeopardize their ranking in the draft. I think it would be a good thing to have this thing happen right away. You have scouting departments. You mentioned Cincinnati. Well, hey, they can put together a scouting department. There's certainly enough money that franchise is making that they can put a scouting department in place to try to put their board together so the coaches after the combine would have a month and a half or 2 months to go ahead and put everything in order to make the draft. I think it's something that the NFL is going to look at very carefully, and I wouldn't be surprised if it happens at all. Mike?
It is certainly under consideration and something we should be listening and watching for. We were talking about another item, as a lot of people are wondering about in the National Football League, as you get a look here at Jonathan Ogden and what he was able to do at the scouting combine. We mentioned Leland McElroy, Ogden, and all the other players measured, but then Ogden goes through with all the tests, and that's just a lot easier on the teams because you know what the guy's numbers are, and then he has the opportunity as well to improve them. When we come back, we will visit with John Ogden and see his great fundamentals.
Just caught him with the club. Once I lock out, it's pretty much over. Against most people.
Wide rush, what do you do?
I should go.
Little Caesars wanted a sports celebrity for their new stuffed crust combo, but charging just $8.99, they couldn't afford much. Little Caesars stuffed crust pizza plus cheese and pepperoni stuffed crazy bread carried out just $8.99, or have it delivered.
Delivery.
All set?
You bet I am. Thanks to you.
A few weeks ago with Jesse, I noticed something. Dandruff. So I told him about Head & Shoulders. Regular shampoos just rinse flakes away. Head & Shoulders helps prevent flakes from even forming.
Because great hair can't have flakes.
So what's the big surprise?
Knicks tickets.
American Express? I got a little proposition. Whoa! Hey, you got my ticket! Think again, my friend. Oh, there!
Express card. It's just the ticket.
I'd have gone to the moon for these.
Tell me about it.
When you manage a restaurant all day, you need the strongest hold you can get. That's why I switched adhesives.
It'll hold stronger, longer, or your money back guaranteed.
Oh, that's good. Now I can sip hot soup at lunch and still make it to dinner to greet my favorite customers.
Fix-It-Dent will hold stronger, longer than any other adhesive or your money back.
It's a long, hard day, but I love every minute of it.
For a stronger, longer hold or your money back, Fix-It-Dent and forget it. Guaranteed.
Final 17 picks of the NFL draft. For some teams, business is done. Others are wrapping up business with selections that are of some great import to them as well. We started by looking at the Arizona Cardinals down there on the draft floor. Many people thought that would be where Jonathan Ogden ended up. It is not. And we saw Jonathan earlier in his new home of Baltimore. Jonathan Ogden, a very imposing physical specimen. As you'll see, Tom Jackson discussing physical, or dependable, I should say, fundamentals with Jonathan Ogden.
Physical specimen is how most have described Jonathan Ogden from UCLA. At 6'8", 318 pounds, he has the potential to be a franchise left tackle. They've raved about his strength and discipline, and he knows his main job will be protect the quarterback. Two key ingredients for any left tackle in the NFL are his hands and his feet. Jonathan, let's begin with your hands. I'm coming at you on a wide rush. What do you do?
Well, with my hands, the first thing I like to do is get them inside the framework of the defender's body and then get a good punch on them to initially shock them. And then once I clamp onto him, it's pretty much over when I lock out my arms.
And you can see the tremendous wingspan. Once he gets his hands on you, the pass rush is over. So what guys will try to do is to beat him by beating his feet. Jonathan, as an outside linebacker, I'm going to try to beat you with quickness. I come to you, I make that move right there. What are you doing?
Well, I'm trying to use my feet and my quickness to maintain inside position in order to make it difficult for you to come back to the inside and get to the quarterback with a straight line. And I'm trying to force you to my strength, which is going to be to ride you past the quarterback and just keep you outside and create a pocket so the quarterback can step up.
Now, with Jonathan's size and with his strength, guys will try to beat him by keeping him off balance. As long as he keeps his leg tight inside and forces guys to his strength, he's going to be awfully hard to beat. Jonathan, we talked about the importance of your hands and your feet when you play offensive tackle in the NFL. We didn't talk about quality of talent across the line of scrimmage. It's always going to be the other team's best defensive lineman. How do you deal with some of the rushes we're going to take a look at here?
Just a lot of film study and practice and knowing how to use your feet and keeping your feet always staying balanced to the inside. Don't lean. Keep putting your hands in the right spot on different types of rushes. Because, I mean, if you don't know someone's favorite move, everyone has a favorite move they like to try to do and try to beat you with. And if you know how to take that away, you've already got half of the battle won right there.
As we take a look at Reggie White doing the hip toss on Larry Allen, what could Larry have done to prevent this move?
Well, his feet are moving pretty good right now, but when he tries to punch, he leaned to the outside a bit and put his head down. And when that happened, his momentum was already going outside, and Reggie just came underneath with the club, and with his strength, he just threw him to the ground.
So always the importance of staying balanced, no matter how tall, no matter how big.
Exactly. If you stay low and balanced, it's really difficult to throw you in. I mean, if you're Reggie White, it's the greatest pass rusher of all time. It's not that hard, but against most people, it's going to work for you.
Coming soon to a crab cake house near you in your neck of the woods, Maryland. We heard before the talk of moving him to guard.
I think he can do it, Mike. I think he gives you a lot of options because you know he's going to be a left tackle eventually. Now, how quickly that comes depends upon a lot of things, how this line meshes. And I think what Ted's going to do is just get him into camp and see if he can handle the guard spot. We saw at UCLA, he can pull and lead Kareem Abdul-Jabbar around a corner. He did it. He can get downfield. He runs a 4.9 for a kid, 318 pounds, which is tremendous. He has some 280-pounders, 270-pounders. Can't do that. He's a tremendously gifted athlete. So he can do the things that a